Hello everyone, in this tutorial today I'm going to be showing you how to draft basic bodice pattern. And to draft your basic bodice pattern, you're going to need the following measurements. You're going to need your neck, shoulder, bust, waist, hip, armhole and bodice length. And the tools you're going to need for your pattern drafting, you're going to need your craft paper. For drawing, you're going to need your tracing wheel to trace. You're going to need your ruler, scissors, French curve for those curved lines. You're going to need a marker, tape measure, a plain sheet of paper to calculate, and a sellotape. This is just to tape your paper down to the table. And the first thing that you measure now is the bodice length, that is from the shoulder line down to the hip line. And I'll be using my measurements, and that is 24 inches. So I'm just marking from the 0 point, the starting point of the tape measure. And again, I will measure the bust line. From the shoulder is 10 inches. My waist line from the shoulder is 16 inches. So after that, I'm just going ahead to draw all these horizontal lines. The shoulder, that's the bust line, the waist line, and the hip line. So after this, I'm just going to go ahead and label all this line. That's the hip line, the waist line, which is 16 inches, the bust line 10 inches from the shoulder line, and that is the shoulder line. So now I want to create the neckline, and to create the neckline you're going to need your neck measurements, the neck width and neck depth. So for the neck depth, I'm just going to go ahead and mark 4 inches. You can use 3 inches, which is the standard for an average woman. And at the shoulder line, I'll go ahead and mark 3 inches for my neck width. So I'm marking it again, and once I've done that, I'm just going to square a line from the shoulder line down and connect that to the center front. And that will be the guide for the curve. So I don't want it too wide or too small. So to do that, you're going to draw a line. Inside that box, you draw a line. And that line, you're going to measure it and divide whatever you have by 3. So for my own measurement, that is 5 inches. So dividing by 5 inches by 3, that gave me 1.75. So I'm just going ahead to mark 1.75. And at that point, that is where the curve will be. I'm just going ahead to use my French curve to draw that curve. And that is the neckline curve. So once I've done that, the next thing is to create the shoulder slope. And to create the shoulder slope, you're going to need your shoulder to shoulder measurements. You divide that by 2. My own is 8 inches from the center front. You're going to mark 8 inches from your center front. That is the center front. So you're just going to mark 8 inches from there. And once you've done that, you go ahead and mark 1 inch down from your shoulder. And that, because our shoulder is not straight, it's kind of slant. So you're just going to connect your neckline to that point. And that is the shoulder slope. Now is to create the armhole curve. And to create the armhole curve, you're going to need your armhole depth measurement. Or you can use this formula. You divide your bust by 6 and you add 1.5 inches to it. So dividing my bust by 6 plus 1.5 inches, that gave me 7.8 inches. So I'm just going ahead to mark 7.8 inches from the shoulder slope. So now I want to square a line down from the shoulder slope to that point. And the next thing is to just draw an horizontal line, and that will be the upper chest or the upper bust. So I'm just going ahead to label that as the upper bust, or you can call it upper chest. So once you've done that, now is to create the curve. And to create the curve, you're going to find the middle point of your armhole line. So you're going to divide that by 2. You divide it by 2. Whatever you get there, that is what will be the middle point of your armhole line. So dividing my own by 2, that gave me about 3.9 inches. So I'm just going ahead now to mark 3.5 inches on that armhole line. So from that point, you're just going to mark about 1 inch, and that is where you will mark your curve from the shoulder slope down to the armpit. So you're just going to connect those points down, and I'll be using my French curve to curve the point, to connect the point down to the under the armhole, and that is that. Now I want to create the side seam, and to create the side seam, you're going to divide all the circumference. You divide them by 4. So starting from the bust line, I'll divide my bust by 4, and I'm just going to add 1 inch seam allowance to it. So dividing my bust of 38 by 4 plus 1 inch seam allowance, that gave me 10.5 inches. So I'm just going ahead now to mark 10.5 inches from the upper bust. So whatever you measure at the upper bust, that is what you will measure at the bust line as well. So I'm just going to mark 10.5 inches at the bust line as well. And for the waistline, you need to divide your waist circumference measurement by 4, and you're going to add 1 inch dart allowance to that, and also you add seam allowance to it. So dividing my 32 waist circumference by 4 plus 1 inch dart allowance and 1 inch seam allowance, that gave me 10 inches. So from the waistline, I'm just going to mark 10 inches from the center front to the side seam. And I'll just do the same for the hip line. I divide the hip circumference by 4 plus 1 inch seam allowance. 40 divided by 4 plus 1 inch seam allowance, that gave me 11 inches. So from the center front now on the hip line, I'm just going to mark 11 inches and use the French curve just to connect those points together to create the side seam. So the next thing now is to find the placement of the dart, and to do that, you're going to need your bust span, the bust nipple to nipple measurement. So my nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches, so I'm just going to divide that by 4. From the center front, you mark 4 inches, and that will be your bust point or apex. So to create the dart, the waist dart now, from that bust point, you measure 1 inch down. And I'm just marking the 4 inches on the waistline and the hip line as well. And at the hip line, you go up by 2 inches to create the waist dart. So you just need to connect those points together. You draw a straight line to connect those points together. And at the waistline, you remember we added 1 inch dart allowance. So you're just going to divide that by 2, and you mark 0.5 inch at both sides of the line, and you connect them together. So I'm just going ahead now to connect them together. And that is the waist dart. So now I want to add side dart to this pattern, and to do that, you're going to divide this line between the upper chest and the waistline by 2. You divide it by 2. So whatever you get, you divide that by 2, and you just connect that point at the side seam. You connect it to your apex. So that is what I'm doing there. And from your apex, you're just going to mark 1 inch down. From the apex, you mark 1 inch down. And once you've done that, at the side seam, you're going to divide 1 inch. That is this dart. For that, you divide it by 2, and that will give you 0.5 inch at both sides. And all you need to do is just to connect those points with that point the one you just measured from your apex. So that is the dart. Those are the dart legs. Those are the the dart leg that you will cut out. So the next thing now is to create the back neckline. So I'm just marking 1 inch for the back neck depth, and I'm just going to connect that to the back neck width, which is 3 inches. And also to create the back armhole, you don't need to go to mark that 1 inch we marked earlier for the front armhole. So all you need to do is just to connect that point is your armpit. You connect it to that middle point, and that will give you your back armhole. So I'm just marking that so that we know that that is the front and that is the back armhole. So once I've done that, I want to cut it out, and I will cut it out by using the back neckline and the back armhole. So I've just cut it out and I place it on the new pattern paper to trace out the back bodice, and I just use my tracing wheel to trace all the horizontal lines. So I'm just going ahead to cut out the back neckline and the back armhole. So I've just done that, and now I want to finish up with the front bodice, and to do that I want to cut out the initial front bodice and the armhole. So I'm just labeling that as the front bodice and marking the notch again. So this is the back bodice. I'm just tracing out all the line that I transferred from the front bodice onto the back bodice, and I'll just go ahead and label that as the center back, and the upper chest or bust, the bust line, the waist line, and that is the hip line. So once you've done that, the next thing now is to find the placement of the back dart, and to do that you're going to need your bust point, and that is 4 inches. So I'm just going ahead to mark that 4 inches around on the waistline and at the hip line, and also I will mark it at the upper chest. And at the upper chest you go down by ½ an inch, and that is where your dart will start from, and at the hip line you go up by 2 inches. So you're just going to draw a straight line to create your back waist dart. And again at the waistline you're going to divide 1 inch for that dart allowance. You divide it by 2, and that will give you 0.5 inch at both sides. And once you've done that, you connect all these points together, and that is how to create the back waistline, the back waist dart. And that is it. That is how to draft a basic bodice. And for this you can use this basic bodice to create virtually any type of top, blouses you want. If you find this tutorial helpful, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and kindly subscribe to my channel so that you'll be able to see more of my upcoming videos. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.